Yeet! Welcome to the Smite Pro League. Tom Bandiger joined here by Anatoly Alexeyenok. Fantastic stuff going on today. It's Wednesday, by the way, not Tuesday. That means we've got a schedule full of North American action.
We're going to start things off with eUnited versus Trifecta. Interesting to see how eUnited bounced back after their early lackluster spring performance starts to not even have that same performance in the summer, starting off strong in the first half.
Yeah, the summer has been a pretty interesting joyride as we get into it. Let's take a look at what we're looking at throughout the entirety of this season. You can see 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. We've got the SPL, little mix and match day on Monday, but divided after that. And then throughout the course of the week, we've got some other things, most notably my favorite, Esports Weekly, bright and early on Mondays, 10 a.m. You get to see Hindu Man, Aggro, and Taco argue about who's wrong about their predictions, and then you get to see me beat up Finch.
Really?
Yeah.
The next episode?
Yeah.
A boxing match? Like what kind of show match are we seeing?
No, so it's mental fortitude.
Oh.
So we sit there and we usually have a conversation about the meta, and then we kind of combat each other. Last time I did. Actually, if you didn't watch it, you don't know. So I'm just gonna say I won. Last time I won. Unless you've watched it, then don't talk to me. But we had a good time. It's always a blast. A lot of replays, a lot of catch up on the week if you weren't able to watch it throughout the course of it. That's exactly what we're gonna do right now. Let's catch you up on the Smite Pro League and the standings, and how everybody's sitting up top, Dignitas and Space Station for their respective regions.
And in North America, Splice and eUnited right behind Space Station. A great success thus far out of the black and yellow squad from North America that's been always able to set the bar. And eUnited not too far behind. They're trying to get their way back into the North American land. Splice is really in the middle of the mix, but Trifecta need to find their way back into this if they want to qualify to the land. It's only 2 teams per region making Masters.
Only one win there for Trifecta so far, and we'll see if they're able to take that down today. They'll be heading up against eUnited, but they do have a temporary roster change. Zapman is back for the moment. No word on whether or not that's going to be permanent or not, but he will be in that long lane one more time. Luminosity and Counter Logic Gaming will play a little bit later. CLG really trying to clean things up. They haven't looked very good. And Luminosity Gaming here, Weekend's going to be playing in his first match as a married man. So it should be an interesting thing. Congratulations again to Kurt and his wife.
I don't think it'll change much, honestly, because the way his mentality goes into Smite, you're really able to separate yourself from whatever qualms is happening, good or bad, into the real life world once you're playing competitively, Smite or otherwise.
Yeah, certainly something it's certainly something to keep in mind. But I think all things positive for the Weekend family. So Luminosity might be able to come up. Like I said, I think the story is more about Counter Logic Gaming on that side when you look at how unsuccessful their summer split has been.
CLG has been a little bit on the downside, but so is Trifecta in this first matchup. They found their first victory against the struggling CLG, but Splice in particular and Space Station Gaming were able to get the better end of Trifecta. And going up against eUnited that's been on the up and up, there should be more momentum from the defending champs.
Trifecta has made some changes in the springtime. They started off and continued to just be lukewarm. I won't really say poor, I'll say lukewarm. But then what they did was they made this giant roster change. They shifted Met Yankee over into his natural position as Hunter, and Zapman was underperforming, and they called up Paul from the minor league. A couple of people were worried about how his game would transition into the pro league, but looks like everything's all hunky-dory for Paul. Different story for Met Yankee. As we said, he will be sitting on the bench today, bringing Zapman back off of the bench. Team playing around with different things, and I like that call. I think making the roster change right here, it was clear that Paul's going to work out, at least for the short term, but that Hunter position, still a lot of conversation to be had.
There's something to be said about trying a different meta than most other teams that have been consistent, but the way Trifecta have been experimenting between Paul and Met Yankee with going Raijin in the dual lane, going with different mages, was not working out for them in the slightest in the summer split, and I think they're going for the long-term investment, potentially, trying to get their way into that top 2 position. They missed out on LAN last time. I don't think they're looking for the same here in the summer.
Only the top 2 teams get to go to LAN, so it's going to be a little bit tough. Hopefully Trifecta, for them and their fans, will be able to make it. I think it'd be a nice shakeup. I think it'd be interesting to see not just the minor league call-up do work, but NeiruMah certainly really fun to watch and be a big part of what's going on here. So Zapman going to combine with the rest of the squad? Maybe. You're an ex-teammate of Zapman's. You've played against Matt Yank and you've been able to watch him. What's your take on this 100 position situation?
I think that Matt Yank is more flexible in terms of different diverse picks, but I think if you're looking at day in, day out consistency basis, Zapman should take you more to the top than Matt Yankee ever will. I think that both of them have very high highs, but I think that Matt Yankee's low is a little lower. So that's the biggest telltale sign between these two players. And I think that, yet again, Trifecta thinking more long-term going with Zapman.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out in the long run. You guys know me. I think that Zapman's an exciting player, and I'm not really looking for the W's. I'm just looking for the excitement factor most of the time as a fan. So different story there for me than the coach of Trifecta. Certainly an interesting look. So we'll see how that one continues to go. eUnited across the way, though. Certainly a force to be reckoned with. PolarBearMike there, the captain, the guardian, the support player. A large part of what has made eUnited so successful. But recently, it's been all about Venenu. The mid laner has been stepping up and stepping on and over his opponents time and time again. And this guy has proven to be one of the strongest mid laners in the game, totally.
He didn't get the MVP from Worlds for no reason, right? He's able to, take the leadership from PBM, take the frontline presence from the rest of his team, Benji and Screammmmm included, to make these highlight plays like this, even bringing back Morgan every now and then, which confuses their opposition of like, oh, okay, we forgot that Venenu had this Morgan because he's been so successful with every other pick in the spring and summer now.
And the way he plays De Morgan is fantastic because, one, he does have the skill set to play the other characters, which is a big deal when you're playing the Morgan, but also he actually plays De Morgan's kit itself. When we saw the Morgan come online, or come out rather, everybody was really interested in the ultimate, and sure, that's really what makes her different from the rest of the crew. But it's really just Venenu and I'll probably say Zeros that actually play the Morgan in addition to the ult.
Zeros is really good in Europe, but I think Venenu in North America is a staple Morgan player. I believe Trifecta might ban it away in picks and bans.
Could be certainly interesting. Let's get right into them, actually. Picks and bans on the way. Trifecta versus eUnited. This one should be a barn burner.
Maybe even a slobber knocker, some would say, as we head into the first one. Trifecta going for the first pick. I think that between these two players, Paul and Venenu, there could be a lot of early action, and there might be some mid-mage contention between the two.
Absolutely. It's certainly something to think about. Paul has been very aggressive, and some have called his playstyle pub stompy. With that in mind, he's certainly doing fine in the Pro League, so we'll see how it works out. Trifecta banning out 2 healers, Chunga and the Guan Yu. eUnited focusing more on that Terra and the Ratatasker. A lot of people have been looking at Mask in the jungle, and Trifecta has struggled to find the wins, but they haven't struggled to find a jungler. Mask has looked out of control this season. I mean, he could be the best jungler in North America.
He has his moments from time to time. There's several occasions where he staggers a little bit. Against Space Station Gaming in week 2, when we were casting that on Friday, there was moments where he would hesitate to go into the back line onto Baskin's Thoth, and that slight hesitation basically ruined everything he did in the early game to not allow his team to clean up the game.
A little bit tough there for Mask. We'll see how things go this game. Xbalanque and the Thoth guy picked up for eUnited, so no surprise there. I think these are 2 very powerful characters that you should expect to be picked up early and often, with the Athena being the first selection. Ullr going to go next to the Athena, most likely, although the mid lane is still available. And the Achilles, look at that, half-price apps, as everybody's chilling. Trifecta Achilles.
It's interesting.
Jungle or solo?
It could be either or, honestly, because Trifecta can run the Athena solo lane if given the opportunity. Sobek is still on the table, so they can run even Achilles support, Sobek solo, Athena jungle. Like, there's a lot of options for Trifecta, and I think that at the end of the day, by picking these 3 gods, they don't really reveal their hand too much because Paul can play the Ullr, so can Zapman, and it still needs to identify the next 2 picks to see how eUnited is going to transition to their last and final 10th pick.
Well, eUnited can give Screammmmm the Serqet almost undoubtedly. I don't think we'll see PolarBearMike be playing the Serqet support anytime soon. And with that in mind, Screammmmm has a fantastic Serqet. So hopefully this guy can carry if you're rooting for eUnited, and hopefully he gets contained if you're rooting for Trifecta. 2 bans out from each team. No Guardians, says Trifecta. And 1 Mercury and 1 Cucullin, excuse me, by eUnited. So now with the 4th selection, they need a solo and they need a support. and it's going to be the Amaterasu, which could go in either spot.
That's true. PBM has been known to run it from time to time. It has so much mobility that in the late game, it doesn't matter if it's the solo lane or the support, because you're looking for that team utility. It provides that presence you're looking for. Sometimes Giannis is that utility, other times it's Amaterasu, and when it's both, it's even scarier.
Here's a question. Hercules into Serqet, is this a mistake? Is this an issue? Or can you just play around it?
You could play around it. If you're focusing the Hercules early, then your dual lane should have more freedom to make the plays. This could be an idea that Trifecta is like baiting Scary D out on purpose to give Zapman more freedom.
Sobek, the final selection for eUnited. So it looks like Amaterasu and Sobek will fight over which side of the map they go on to, but everything else as it fits. Trifecta have a nice mid-game composition, I would say, going for the early game pressure with the double hunter combination. eUnited, on the other hand, a little bit later in the game with the Thoth guy, the Amaterasu, and of course the X-Ball. eUnited late, Trifecta early. Who you feeling?
eUnited. It's got to be United. Venenu on the Thoth yet again. It always impresses me how he's able to pilot this god.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very impressive watching Venenu take it out one more time. Let's get right into the action.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Toli. And we are ready to move into eUnited versus Trifecta. This is going to be game one between these two teams. And Trifecta's been a bit on the climb here lately. Let's see if they can keep that climb going. Now they got Zap over there.
That's true. I'm interested to see how they're going to do with a different face in that duo lane, though it's the old face. So it's the same face, but different from what it was last few weeks.
Right.
I think that their double hunter comp here can succeed, but man, am I worried about them if they get into that late stage, because when you have 4 physicals, particularly 4 physicals, and 2 of which are very early game, and Ullr and Achilles, now Benji, PBM, they just get to stack physical defense and not really worry about you come the late game. So Trifecta do need to get off to a good start.
Well, who do you think's going to win there in Mixer Chat? Go ahead and vote for us in the poll now so we can get your opinions. And even though, yes, this is kind of a new old new face, whatever it is for Zapman over there, we haven't seen the Zapman-Paul combination yet for Trifecta, right? So that could, maybe this is actually a secret combination that we don't know about, like the right mix of chemicals or players or whatever. I don't know where this analogy is going, but I'm very excited to see these two players playing.
It's like, you play your sports games, your franchise, it's like the chemistry level is different, even if the player overall is about the same between Met Yankee and Zap, and we'll see if that's the case. I mean, Met Yankee got that spot over Zapman and still didn't end up, making that much of an impact overall. We'll see if Zap's able to prove that, maybe that should have been his spot from the beginning.
Maybe so. So definitely ready to go ahead and move into this game one between these two squads and see what we can end up happening. Because eUnited, maybe not quite where they were at the start of the season, where we thought they'd be coming in looking dominant. They've looked great, yes, but we hold eUnited to such a high standard that even maybe like a couple slip-ups here and there have me saying maybe they're not at the standard we would have expected. But there it is. Zapman on the Hachiman in the duo lane have his work cut out for him against PolarBearMike and PandaCat.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough lane to go up against, especially with PBM on the Ama. I love that when eUnited does this, instead of putting the Sobek in support and the Ama in solo, this gives eUnited so much more boxing potential in the dual lane. And remember, X-Ball gets a lot of his damage just by chip damage, right? You press the 1, and you're constantly throwing it at the wave. Those little branching bolas are hitting. With PBM's extra damage aura, that's going to help that out and it'd be more impactful.
Look at this, though. A huge rotation from Trifecta over to the speed buff to get this game started off. And they are going to be able to strip this away. Scream instead going to have to fall back and try and find this farm elsewhere. Now, this is big. This is a big deal for Trifecta to be able to grab this, but I want to see how Scream responds. Great teams like eUnited always do a good job finding farm elsewhere.
And Paul heads right back towards middle and is able to make it work there, but Scream, it goes to red buff instead and gets himself some level of farm. Doesn't pick it up, is going to leave it for Venenu to get it done. Not going to get a whole lot of farm overall, though. I mean, he gets red and back camps. That's really not that much. Ven will be able to hold mid camps for him here, but this is certainly favoring Trifecta so far because they didn't lose anything on their side of the map in order to get that invade in their favor. Now Mass can easily come back towards his own speed. He's a tiny bit behind in XP. That's just because he's had so many camps to clear thus far that he hasn't been able to get it done.
They even have a ward down there by that speed buff, too. I wasn't sure if that was there before or after, but they should be able to get some good information about when that speed buff responds and if they could be there in time for that, too. So I'm very curious if Trifecta are going to continually go for it, or is it enough just to take that very first speed buff away?
I imagine they're going to try and continue to put pressure on the Scream and put him behind. It really feels like what Splice did to Space Station, doesn't it? Where it was a very dedicated effort to keep Aninster behind. And we talk about eUnited and Space Station in tandem a lot of the time because of their relationship as scrim partners. And I guess Trifecta saw what Splyce was able to do and made sure that they copied it a little bit.
I kind of thought that we would see this meta happening at LAN. I think it was one of the predictions I had was that we'd see a little bit more of this invade thing happening, because as people get more comfortable on the map, that's when you start to see them giving less stuff up for granted, right? Like, we're comfortable with everybody's going to be on the map. Now I can try and throw that rhythm off, or even benefit off there being a rhythm now, and try and know where you're going to be on the map and come punish you for it. It is going to be the rotation from Mask and Paul to the jungle. Scream is alone here, so they shouldn't have too hard a time confirming. Ambush goes in from Scream to try and drop the speed buff. He does defend it, and now Trifecta have got to find the retreat.
Venenu's coming back as well. Paul's in some trouble, but going to go up and down, looking for the kill on a Scream potentially. Scream's got speed, so it'll be difficult to catch him. Paul in a ton of trouble, and he will fall for first blood there. Now Mask loses the purification beads. Scream's cooldowns are coming up soon, and Mask is going to end up falling for this as well. A disaster for Trifecta in the early game. I love the idea to invade there. It's the right call. Use your early game advantage while you have it. Also jump out when you're in danger and not up and down.
That would have been the play there from Paul, to disengage a little bit sooner. You're right, the call to be aggressive there is good at the very beginning, but you have to have a very sensitive switch on that call, right? You have to be very willing to completely disengage as soon as it's not in your favor anymore. And instead, Trifecta took the fight, and with Venenu rotating on the backside, there's just no way that one was going to work out in their favor. And now that gets punished. I said it before, but that's what teams like this do. When you do something new or unique to them, they adapt to it very quickly.
Yeah, I love PBM rotating over to defend in that spot. I was very surprised that Venenu decided to back right as speed buff was spawning. I kind of thought that was a mistake. I know Ven was low on mana, but even just his presence alone likely could have deterred that invade, but it ends up working out for the better, because then he gets to come back and affect the fight. Full health, full mana, with cooldown boots finished. He's also going for this boots 2 lost artifact start that a lot of mid laners are starting to go for, and so he was able to impact that fight very nicely.
And how big is it that Scream outsecures both of them, essentially?
Yes.
Just with the ambush, death bait, even if they get those 2 kills, it would be a much different scenario if they at least steal the buff and the farm away from Scream, and he doesn't have that extra movement speed helping him get across the map. Scream, even if they don't win that fight, makes a huge play just by confirming it.
Yes, exactly. I don't know that eUnited even continue to fight if Scream doesn't get that speed buff, because Scream got a heal from it, was able to stay healthy in the midst of that, make sure that Mask didn't level up or anything like that, or have him get healthy, as Zapman gonna go in on a PBM, and man, that damage was so close. Zap was, what, 40 damage off of being able to secure that kill for Trifecta. Love the aggressiveness.
Well, just barely not able to get it, but it's totally called it a TKO yesterday, and I really like that. Still is going to be sending PBM back to base anyway. That's going to give them some freedom around the map. The problem is there's not a whole lot to do. Their purple and red buff aren't up. You can't go grab those real quick. Oracles are there, but instead, Zap's going to kind of stick around in the duo lane and force PolarBearMike off his timers a little bit.
And that's, Mike misses about a full wave there, caught a couple archers on the backside, and Ama hitting level 5 is actually very, very critical, so decreasing his XP intake is definitely worthwhile, especially just for Zap's ult.
Grouping in the mid lane here, so they've got Paul along with Mask on the Achilles there to join him. Even a little bit of a rotation from Scary D, but they're coming down to grab their own harbors. They're not going aggressive. PolarBearMike takes a look into the jungle, realizes purple's already been secured, has to fall back. They haven't really tried to make another aggression, have Trifecta into the jungle of eUnited.
Not yet. They've kind of held that L that was delivered to them on the last invade and slowed it down a little bit, because Mask has fallen behind because of all of that shenanigans in the jungle. No surprise there that Scream gets a first blood and a kill and a buff, and Mask falls behind because of it. Paul needs to be careful here. Uses the beads. Good axe on a Scream. That'll actually chase out Scream's beads, and Paul still alive for the moment after he jukes out that ultimate as well.
Well, now could be trouble for Venenu as Mask is making the rotation and fatal strike gets interrupted. Scream comes in with the last breath, but he gets stunned out. Too much damage. Mask able to take down the jungler for eUnited. Venenu with the long range evade and punish is able to escape. Trifecta finally answer back in the mid lane.
All right, that was actually an insane play by Scream to jump in front with last breath.
Crazy.
And take that ultimate and apply his own ultimate at the same time, but as nice as it was to watch, it wasn't what he wanted to do, I imagine. Well, it's what he wanted to do, probably not what he should have done is what I'm trying to say, because he ended up taking a ton of damage because of it. Venenu lives, Scream dies. You know both are happy about that, and by both, I mean only Venenu. Scream is very angry about it.
Benji under a little bit of aggression there in the soul lane, but not really going to be able to have any actual kill potential in the Sobek. Speed buff secured by Screammmmm. And now we have a moment, because after that fast start, we didn't really get a chance to talk too much about this double hunter strat Trifecta's going to. And a lot of the times with this composition, you want to have a really strong late game hunter. But I mean, it's the Hachiman into the Xbalanque. It's the Ullr into the Thoth. I mean, I really do feel like these picks are outclassed unless they have a significant early advantage.
Completely agreed with you. Now, it's not early game where you need that advantage, though, because these picks don't necessarily excel that much in the early stages, like pre-level 5 or anything like that. I'm talking level 13, level 12, around there, the early/mid game, where you will see that this composition for Trifecta is really going to come to its full potential overall. Once Paul finishes Boots and Crusher, once Mask gets an item or two underneath his belt, that's where I expect Trifecta to turn up the heat a little bit and start putting pressure on eUnited. If eUnited, though, gets to 28 minutes or something like that and is not very far behind, their composition is just leaps and bounds better at that stage of the game.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially on the Hachiman. But I don't know, I feel like I don't give Paul as much leeway on the Ullr. That's a big reason why you want the Ullr in the mid lane, is that it's supposed to just outbox the mid mage pretty substantially. And maybe we're not to that point yet where Paul's going to be able to do that so easily. But Venenu very even with him, if not even a little bit ahead. I mean, at this point, it's not as if he's built any significant advantage over being.
No, not yet, but Paul just now finished his Boots. He actually was sitting on full Transcendence, backed with enough gold to get his Boots done as well. So now is the opportunity where Paul can start to play very aggressive, jump on Ven in the mid lane and things like that.
Well, PolarBearMike's going to be that first jump in target. Taunt comes in, Axe to follow it up. They drop the Darkest of Nights, do eUnited, and PolarBearMike able to use that opportunity to escape. So he does survive, doesn't have to give up anything too important, and can come rejoin Venenu there in the mid lane.
Have no problem with that ultimate from PandaCat in that spot. PBM was in a little bit of danger, not too much, still had his ultimate and his sprint available, but I always like to make sure that, that the X-Ball is paying attention in lane to what's going around the map.
Now he doesn't have the ult to defend himself in duo. Dash taunt from NeiruMah. Not really any true kill potential there, but look at this jungle on the duo side of the map. Trifecta have it lit up right now with the ward control. They definitely know everything that's happening, and they're playing aggressive around that. Look where Mask is in the jungle as Paul catches PBM in the mid lane. They wouldn't be here for the red buff, and they are going to go for the invade. Venenu charging the final judgment, but he's not really going to let that fly. This red buff going to Trifecta.
Very, very smart. And like I was saying, this like the pre-level 5, Trifecta's not trying to fight. This is where it begins, where you have 2 items for Paul. He's got a fully stacked Transcendence, where the enemy team is starting to lull out a little bit after their second item power spike. Trifecta's just going to be stronger at that point in the game, and I love the way that they start to turn it up right as soon as Paul gets his Boots completed and can actually affect rotations around the map.
And it's a pretty heavy commitment into that, so they need to find not just those red buffs, but it's got to be repeated. I mean, it's a ton of vision that they've put into it. They've definitely brought 4 members over to make sure they can grab that red buff and kind of split that all in once. So they got to make sure they keep that pressure going here, Ryan, if they want to be able to make this sort of, early to mid-ish game composition work for them up against this eUnited draft.
I really like the Thoth pickup, though, in response. Well, not really in response, because it was actually Thoth before the Ullr selection. But I think Thoth is a perfect pick for Ven against Paul's Ullr, because Thoth is one of the best mages at dueling in the mid lane. He has so many quick cooldowns. He can close the gap or escape very, very easily. His 1v1 potential is very high. And so you can, one of the things that Ullr struggles with in the early game is poke, because he's the one trying to all-in you a lot of the time. He knows he's going to need a lot of health in order to make that realistically happen, and Thoth will just never let you sit at full HP for long.
Scream is here, but so is Mask. Paul out-rotated, or not out-rotated, but did rotate here, and Venenu did not. He's at mid-Harpy, so a 4v3 in favor of Trifecta. No buffs up to find, and eUnited actually fall back very defensively, so there's no kills or picks to grab either. This rotation not going to prove fruitful, but nothing also lost on that. They just come right back towards mid lane, couldn't find anything, and going to keep right on moving.
Benji did manage to steal away Mask's XP camp on the bottom right, so Mask does give a small something up, not a big deal, though, because Benji actually gives up a wave in solo lane to make sure that that happens, and that Scary doesn't steal away XPs in response, but that opens up Scary to rotate onto red buff here.
They are here indeed. Taunt comes in, but PolarBearMike counters with the dazzling offensive. NeiruMah now has been caught out a bit. Scary's here to force everyone away. But yet again, there's no real kills or any action that comes from it. They just secure the red buff, invade, and fall back. But they're not done entirely. Gold Fury now being pulled. PolarBearMike does not have the big-time ultimate to try and help this either. Darkest of Night comes out from PandaCat. eUnited have got to move in.
Oh, Gold Fury getting very, very low, and Trifecta secure it. PBM in some trouble, has to dash away and use the sprint as Matt's gonna turn his attention towards PandaCat, and he'll get him another kill. Goes to Trifecta, even at 2.
So gonna fall back is the rest of eUnited, or maybe not. They choose Paul as their target, has the purification beads available, jumps over the wall, last breath has been committed. They've given up almost nothing so far. Gold Fury and Red Buff all going the way of Trifecta, plus a kill. So eUnited are looking to punish. Pluck right back into the damage. Mask is here with the Cobra's Kiss, Deathbane. Benji gets the kill credit. eUnited gonna come get our Red Buff in response.
1 for 1, where Trifecta gets the Gold Fury, ends up being in Trifecta's favor for sure. And again, you're going to take risks in these sort of situations because eUnited understands your team comp, and you understand what you have to do at the same time. And just because eUnited knows that you have to fight at this point of the game doesn't mean you can just let them off the hook for it. Trifecta's team composition just does better during this point. That was a risky Gold Fury pull, especially with Venenu having his ultimate. Sometimes you got to take those risks in games where you need to get leads, and at that time, it pays off nicely for Trifecta.
But this is what makes eUnited so scary. I've kind of been harping on it all game long because, it's the truth. When this play ends up happening, all in all, the Gold Fury is really the only difference in that fight, really. They get a red buff in response to their red buff. They get a kill in response to the kill. They're not able to steal away the Gold Fury, but kind of at this point, you almost don't even really expect them to. Trifecta have the slight advantage in the fight. So eUnited get just about everything back that they could be expected to and really mitigate this fight or that big play from Trifecta.
You aren't wrong, but again, Trifecta can't just let that deter them. And I love that they're right back on red buff and are going to be able to steal it away. Again, 3 in a row now going Trifecta's way. It's what you got to do. I mean, even from the last fight to this one now, Trifecta's are going to have a harder time because PBM has sovereignty, and that makes him much tankier, but also his entire team much tankier to everyone on Trifecta except for NeiruMah, and that's an Athena support, so who cares how tanky you are to that. That's where this composition is already going to start to hurt itself a little bit because PBM gets a perfect item choice. It's easy to understand that that's exactly what you're going to go into. No way any SPL support misses against 4 physical that you go first item sovereignty.
So does Scream, right? With the Witchblade, equally punishing, coming out from the jungler. eUnited already using this itemization to slow down Trifecta. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because if we're 27 minutes in and eUnited are slightly in the lead, it's these plays that we're talking about right now, these item builds that are the reason why eUnited make it there. And it might seem like, these small engagements, but that's where Trifecta was trying to find a bigger lead, and eUnited mitigated some, or where they wanted to get, the power spike advantage, and eUnited build correctly and slow that down.
Look at the build for Paul. I mean, he's gone for an Aussie, and usually Ullrs want to go Crusher as early as possible. They want to get it right after Boots, but that's that Thoth pick. I think that against most other mid-mages, Paul gets to go for Crusher in the 3rd item slot. Not that Aussie's bad, but Crusher is just such an insane power spike for Ullr that it's usually worth rushing. But because of the poke damage that Ben provides, he's kind of forced to get some sort of sustain in the form of lifesteal. So this ends up being a little bit annoying for him, but he wants to build Aussie at some point anyways, most likely, so I'm sure he's not too torn up about it.
A bit of a rotation came over from eUnited over to the solo side of the map, try and take that blue buff away from Scary D. So they were able to grab that and move right back over to the middle lane without any problems, but red buff is where Trifecta's kind of been making a big point of contention. They're going to be here for it one more time. Red buff just about to spawn. There's a grouping here from eUnited, but they can't move into the jungle safely just yet.
Red buff's about to spawn, and Scary's not here, but focus a little bit onto PandaCat on the other side. Paul has been left all alone, and NeiruMah is coming with assistance on the Defender of Olympus. Paul held onto both his relics there. Ends up paying off for the moment, but now he's in trouble.
Very patient, uses the Aegis so he does not get stunned, and the Axe as soon as the CC immunity was over. Now PolarBearMike in a whole heap of trouble. Taunted, back in execute threshold. They don't need it. NeiruMah finds the kill. Benji's here with the Lurking in the Water. No big impact there. He plucks away. Trifecta find the kill, and Paul stays alive.
Man, Paul looking like he's very comfortable not Aegising or beadsing the combo from Scream, only using beads and understanding that he's good and exactly how much damage PBM is going to do to him. Ama support's not something you play against every day of the week, and understanding how much damage Ama's going to do with Warrior Tabi as opposed to the reinforced. That's not easy to understand those numbers. Paul seems to have a pretty solid grasp on it, though.
Pyromancer in half HP now, Ryan. Scream is nearby, as is PandaCat. I think that's enough for Trifecta to be at least reconsidering the objective. Hail of Arrows, Bladed Arrow, though, is pretty good secure. Trifecta grab that one. Benji gets hit by the Axe. Looking for a pluck, but not a good target with Mask and Scary D here. eUnited drop yet another neutral objective. Trifecta, though, only about 300 gold in the lead. I mean, when it's all said and done, United have the experience lead.
And like I said, this is where you expect Trifecta's comp to be pretty much at its peak overall. Middle of the game, level 14, level 15, around there. Paul's nearly up to his Crusher. Zapman's building Crit, which is a little bit surprising because usually you want at least one Hunter to go for the Executioner to set up for the other one, doing a lot of the damage, but it also works for Mask, for Scary. Pretty surprised that we don't see an Exy coming out here, instead going for the Crit build, especially when you know that the opposition is going to be going for so much physical defense, and Crit is inherently better against people who aren't tanky to you. I'm very surprised that Zap isn't going for the pen build.
Yeah, in fact, Benji has the Thorns already too, ticking away. So certainly recognizing it and going with this build path anyway is Zapman. I mean, I'm sure he knows exactly what United have and feel confident in this Crit build. Now, if they feel like they're still going to be able to isolate PandaCat or Venenu, and he doesn't have to worry too much about Benji, maybe they can even find Scream, then this is okay. But if they do end up in one of those fights where they're trying to shoot through the front line, they're going to be much less effective at it.
He does lose a lot if he goes Executioner in lane in comparison to PandaCat's Poison Star. Poison Star is so good at boxing in lane because the crit damage, #1, of course, but whenever you do get crit, you'll get slowed, your damage output is lessened, and that's very difficult to box into. But Zapman, usually one who wants to play for the team fights anyways. So again, a little bit surprised. Looks like he could be going for it next item though. And Poison Star is great against frontliners anyways.
Paul gets plucked back in by Benji. Benji is getting hit by the 120 crits, but seems a little bit undeterred. Final Judgment does hit Mask, bring him down to about half HP as Scream continues to try and loop around the back end of this team fight, and eUnited are coming in for the full wraparound. They've got Gold Fury pulled as well. Trifecta have got to be very, very careful here.
I love what eUnited's doing, and Trifecta has no clue where Scream is, and so eUnited's baiting them closer, pulling them in towards the Gold Fury pit, letting Scream go.
Scream waiting on his target. Dark as a Knights is the perfect opportunity. Blink in, Cobra's Kiss, Death Bane, and the target ends up being NeiruMah for the last breath. Defender of Olympus is going to get him out of there. Zapman gets good damage from the mounted archery. Scary D wants to head back towards the Gold Fury, though. He does get the pull on the PolarBearMike, but not the best target. At this point, both teams are resetting, but NeiruMah very low. Defender of Olympus already used. He had to back, and also so did Mask. It's 3 up against 5.
Mask on the way back, though, and will have some extra movement speed from that Masamune that he picked up. Gold Fury's down to about half HP, and Venenu has ultimate back already. Shoutouts to full CDR through 3 items.
Scream, though, once again on that loop around path. Gold Fury has been leashed at this point. They've got about half health. They pull it again. Paul, Scary D, and Mask all move in, but the damage from Venenu is really strong for the chunk. Pull lands onto Benji to pull him back in. Mask goes up for the execute. Mask finds it. Can't get it up. The reset off in time. He does end up falling. Scream is the one that gets that last hit. Credit PolarBearMike frontlining now, but it's a 4v4, and eUnited couldn't get the Gold Fury, but they make it an even trade in kills.
Benji for Mask, not a bad trade for either side, but Venenu without his ultimate now means that eUnited likely don't feel confident enough to still stick around on this Gold Fury, but I think they just recognize that Paul is very low on mana. That's the best steal secure on the other side.
Scream goes in on Scary D. They just wanted to force someone from Trifecta back into this fight when they weren't ready. Thoth does land, but now Paul's in a whole heap of trouble. Scary D falls first. PandaCat finds that shot. NeiruMah is in trouble, and Venenu finds that one. And 2 more quick kills go eUnited's way. 4 members still strong. They're going to head right back towards the Gold Fury.
Yeah, Paul is so low now on mana that he can't even think about contesting. Venenu has ultimate up again and won't even need to use it. eUnited do finally get the Gold Fury in a total bloodbath on that side of the map, and already you can see the weaknesses starting to show up for Trifecta's team composition. Lack of AoE damage. eUnited gets to group up around gold how many times there and really don't get punished for it. Best AoE damage on Trifecta is either mounted archery or that excavate. PandaCat's in trouble. Zapman's gonna go for it.
Yeah, Zapman's here, has Defender of Olympus and the mounted archery. Heavenly Banner into the taunt is enough. Zapman gets the kill credit, and PandaCat has to fall. But I mean, you're right, going back to that Gold Fury, every element of that siege defense was in eUnited's favor. They were the one with the aggressive jungler looping around on the backside. They were the ones winning the poke war. That meant that Trifecta couldn't stay at that distance that they wanted to hold because Venenu was constantly poking them down with that extra cooldown. It felt like almost every facet of that fight was going in eUnited's favor. It was surgical how cleanly they played.
Scream loses the bubble. Still on the run. Should be able to close the gap or get away from Mask. And look at this, Trifecta. This is Trifecta understanding that if they just sit around and let eUnited farm for another 10 minutes, this game's lost already. And I loved how well they understand their comp.
Mask is going to go in onto Venenu, who already had to use Purification Beads. Aegis still available for him as they turn around towards Benji, who has those thorns ticking. making him a not-so-delicious target. PandaCat drops Darkus a knife, but Benji still forcing the Aegis out from Zapman. He's all alone. I think they might not have realized how little reinforcements Benji had because of how aggressive he was playing. Now they're ready to all in on the Crocodile. He should fall.
And indeed he will. Good pull there from Scary. Make sure that goes Trifecta's way. What I mean is that the best Fire Giant pull you'll ever see a team make? No, it's not a good Fire Giant pull at all, just in a vacuum. But understanding the point in the game where Trifecta is and what their team comp does in comparison to eUnited, you have to make something happen, and you're at least forcing a response from eUnited, and that's why I think this is very smart.
Well, they are going to come back and pull it one more time. Fire Giant at half HP Scream, as he often does, lurking around the backside of this fight. A knockup lands on the Zapman, and now comes in the blink. Taunt comes out, but he immunes it. Death Bane into the knockup from the Fire Giant. Trifecta get the objective, but Paul ends up falling. Scream grabs that. Sprint comes out from PBM. He shouldn't have a problem grabbing that target as PandaCat gets Zapman. NeiruMah underneath the tower is in some trouble. PolarBearMike has the support build, but the in-hand should be enough eventually. And he brings him down.
Mask just gets the back off in time. Right in front of Venenu. You lose 3, but you get fire. Certainly United's not worried about that. Only Mask and Scary with it, so the two members you wanted Fire Giant on most, and Paul and Zapman are on the respawn timer. Again, is that a good Fire Giant pull? No. eUnited knows it's happening. You're not even ahead. eUnited's ahead. That is not a particularly good fight. But if you just wait around and do nothing, your chances of winning are very low. This is if you're familiar with card games, this is playing to your out, right? Like it might not be the objectively best play by the numbers in a vacuum, but you play to what your hand can do, right? Like you're playing to your hand, to your win condition, and that's what Trifecta does there. I've got no problem with them risking it there. Is their chance of winning very low now? Yeah, of course, because they just lost 3 members, and eUnited's now at 5K at 23 minutes against a 4 physical team that has an Ullr and an Achilles. But is it any worse than if they just waited until 32 minutes before and just letting eUnited get there? I don't think so.
No, I agree with you 100%. It might look a little bit worse, but this is a point they almost inevitably would have gotten to anyway, had they just waited around. And I think recognizing that, as you said, that their best chance was to try and force that fight then. It was like a 15% chance versus a 5% chance, and they went with the 15, and it did not work for them that time because eUnited played it very, very well and was able to get them to line up on a couple Fire Giant knockups and a great play from Scream to find the double Cobra's Kiss into the Death Bane combo. So just because eUnited played well in response does not mean it was not the right call, as now eUnited are ready to group up and try and force down some towers.
And this is the right decision from eUnited now, where you don't let up the gas, just put Trifecta's back against the wall, get as much global gold as you can if you're eUnited to make sure that you're able to keep it up. Now, you don't want to let Trifecta just farm.
Taunt goes in on the Benji, but Scream once again blinks in on the Zapman. Dazzling offensive comes through, forces the retreat. Final Judgment doesn't quite hit home as Scary D has to drop the boulder and now falls back. But this is the advantage that you have with the mage. That long range on these sieges is so powerful. Trifecta have to fall back. It looks like eUnited are the ones who secured the Fire Giant, even though they didn't. Tier 2 tower and Tier 1 tower all come tumbling down.
Again, eUnited just able to become the death ball. Like Scream, Benji, PBM, they're all grouped up in a very, very tight area there, right by Tier 2, and Trifecta's come just doesn't punish that at all, and eUnited has recognized that really well.
Gold Fury now being looked at. Mask goes for the blink. PolarBearMike the only target he finds. Benji goes in for the pluck. 2-man taunt from NeiruMah, but where's the follow-up? There's really no way to punish them off that. Now Scary D has to fall back a little bit as Benji and Scream collapse onto the backside of the team fight. NeiruMah has to get out of there with Defender of Olympus. Mask in a whole lot of trouble too. The PandaCat in-hands are chunking at this point in the match. Benji goes lurking in the water to try and chase down Zapman, and Paul Venenu finds Scary D on the back end, and this fight's become a nightmare very quickly for Trifecta. Double kill for the carry. Scream finds NeiruMah. That's a full-on deicide. eUnited can get whatever they want.
Man, PandaCat has just been free casting in these team fights, and he is doing so much damage in every single one of them. There, I mean, it's just auto after auto, just crushing the front line, the back line, whoever's right in front of him. Trifecta thought eUnited was committing to Gold Fury and try to stop it, but it's just too late. Again, Trifecta knew this game was over once they lost that Fire Giant fight, but they play to their outs, and that's the right thing to do.
And eUnited continue to look strong in this game. Trifecta may have fallen here in game one, but it's more that eUnited played really well, though, and Trifecta made a whole bunch of mistakes or played poorly at all. The world champs continue to look like the world champs here in this set, and this is what I was talking about how they play so surgically. They force you to make bad decisions. We saw it on display here.
Yeah, I mean, Trifecta came in with a plan. Let's pick early game. Let's invade speed consistently. Okay, that didn't work. What if we just invade red a lot? Okay, that's working for a while, and then okay, we get punished for that. All right, we're losing, so let's just try Fire Giant? Like, that's kind of the thought process, it felt like, for Trifecta. And it's not the wrong one. No. It's just that when you go in with a very specific team composition, it needs to work, and it needs to work that specific way. And that time, it just didn't. United played around it too well.
And if in any one of those three ideas, right, the speed buff, red buff, invade, Fire Giant fight, if any one of those goes Trifecta's way, we're still in that game. We're still talking about it, right? But eUnited respond to every one of them essentially perfectly. And they don't always win it, but they mitigate any advantage Trifecta might gain. And that's why we got Trifecta here as the winners. And I want to know who is your MVP from eUnited. Go ahead and vote for us now in the Mixer poll.
I think Screammmmm had a phenomenal game on that Serqet.
Yeah,
his timing, just his assassin instincts are so good, it feels like. The way that he's lurking around the back of Gold Fury.
Is that a compliment, by the way?
Well,
his assassin instincts. He knows how to sneak in on the backside.
Yeah, he's just like
people.
Blinks in, you know. It is what it is. Look, Screammmmm blinking in on Fire Giant, that kind of stuff. His timing always seems to be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Great timing there from Screammmmm. Do want to make sure I'm making clear, though, it is eUnited who won away with that game. That's who you can be voting for in the MVP polls as well. And the desk is standing by. We'll go ahead and get over them to break it down.
Thanks a lot, friends. Trifecta tried as they might, but they will not come up with the Game 1 victory. This one belongs to the defending world champions. And I think that is also a big part of the conversation. At the end of the day, Trifecta are going up against one of the fiercest competitors here in the Smite Pro League.
And it was just a battle of the compositions, honestly, because eUnited was dealing against the double hunter from Trifecta, but there wasn't that much synergy between Trifecta. There wasn't the Shogun's Kusari that you would normally expect. Where's the boost of the attack speed? But on the flip side for eUnited, there was the anti-attack speed options. Screammmmm going for the Witchblade. It was Benji going for the Jade Emperor's Crown to reduce physical power of opposing enemies by 30, and the Merguardian Mail.
Yeah, just a lot of big stuff coming out of eUnited in general. And right now I'm looking directly towards Screammmmm. The MVP player was, or the jungler was your MVP player. 4-1-7 on the slash line, and I love the build. Double Hunter across the way. Obviously, I'm going into an early Witchblade. This is how you make me happy. Screammmmm on top. Building Witchblade. Thank you.
Well, the thing is, normally you would definitely want a Witchblade, but it's a little surprising to me personally to see it on a jungler assassin such as the Serqet, where you're really relying on either cooldown reductions or penetration to make these kinds of plays, to dive the backline. But the fact that Screammmmm is one of these utility junglers and is so patient and analytical about when he approaches certain engagements, that's what keeps eUnited just one step ahead of their opposition. That team fight, around 18.5 minutes in, he was flanking the whole entire time behind that Gold Fury, just patiently waiting like a true assassin should. Darkest of Nights helping him out get into the backline even better.
Here's the deal with Serqet. I mean, you don't need the power or the penetration. Cooldown reductions all well and good, but frequently we see these tank Serqets come out. Go the utility option. Love the way it worked out for Screammmmm. Game number 2.